Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
It is Wednesday, and as always on a Wednesday, all of our guests, including J. Pat, standing by, brought to you by the Alberni Power and Marine RPM Group, located in Port Alberni. Alberni Power and Marine is one of Vancouver Island's most trusted boat dealerships, the largest Mercury Marine dealership in Canada. Their service team just won for the fourth straight year a CSI score above the national average. That's Customer Satisfaction Index. Make your appointment today for the 2022 boating season at albernipowermarine.com. I remember a few years ago coaching a Pee Wee rep team out in Port Moody, and we had a big shootout in a tournament, and we used one of our defensemen in the shootout, and he ended up scoring.
There you go.
But I could see the parents in the crowd, and I could just tell that they were going, what the hell's going on? But we knew that this kid was very good in practices shootouts, so we rewarded him with the shootout.
That's it.
And better than some of our higher scoring forwards. It ended up working out. And I don't know this for a fact, but I'm wondering, and a lot of people have texted into the Delaney's OK Tire and Langley inbox saying, I'll bet you Patan has done well if they practice the shootout at practice, and maybe that was Boudreau's thinking. Last night as we bring in
and you're missing Bo Horvat last night.
Well,
in that situation, in overtime and shootout. That's a big void last night for them.
As we bring in Jeff Paterson from the Rink podcast, and Sakaris and Price. How are you, sir?
I'm good, and I have to congratulate you guys right off the top for keeping this thing on the rails. When you opened the show talking about woodpeckers, I didn't think you had a chance of even getting through the first segment. So congrats for still being on the air and not having your license revoked after the first 15 minutes of this program.
And thanks for sticking around and still agreeing to do this interview, Jeff. I appreciate that. How do you explain what happened to the Canucks last night after such an impressive win over Dallas the night before?
Well, look, I love a great storyline, and Adam Gaudette, after all he went through here and the way it ended for him in Vancouver, man, did he play the villain, and you guys pointed out, he only played 4 minutes and 29 seconds, didn't have a shift after the midway mark of the second period. He has gone 20 games without a point in the National Hockey League and 28 without scoring a goal, so of course he's the guy fifth up in the shootout that puts the dagger in the Vancouver Canucks. The other storyline that's not getting talked about an awful lot is Philip Gustafsson, guys. That was his first NHL start in a month.
Yep.
His first win in the National Hockey League since November. So I know 50 years of existence, the Canucks have propped up minor league goaltenders, guys getting their first starts, all those types of things. Add Philip Gustafsson to the list because the Canucks matched their season high with 80 shot attempts. And Don, you talked about the missed shots and the block shots. And, you showed in the highlight, Juho Lammikko with about 6 minutes to go right down Main Street. And he fired it wide. Maybe he's not the guy that you want having the game on his stick in that situation, but still force goaltenders to make saves, put the puck on net, and make the goalie make a save. And the Canucks didn't do enough of that against a guy that hasn't played an awful lot in the National Hockey League. And so, look, they weren't going to run the table. I think even JT Miller after the game said, we weren't going to win every game. I think the hope, though, was that you get through the homestand, and if they did have a loss to give still, that you could accept a setback in either Minnesota or Calgary. You hope that you steal the other game on this 2-game road trip, and then you come home and you play out the final week with 2 of the last 3 on home ice. So I think now any margin for error has been completely removed. They probably do have to run the table now. And as much as I saw a lot of noise on social media, they're done, that was it, the single point that they gave up last night, that does them in. I'm not ready to go there. We've tried to bury this team a few times. And you think after that 7-game homestand where they only won twice and they got shut out by Detroit and lost to Buffalo, then they went out on the road and they beat Colorado. They got a point in Minnesota. They won in Dallas. So, look, they've come this far. Let's give them every opportunity. It's not going to be easy. And at the end of the day, it's probably not going to happen for them. But my goodness, guys, we have covered this team long enough where the final 30 games have meant absolutely nothing. So this has been some fun. The fact that there have been high stakes in these games, it's been fun, but ultimately it wasn't a whole lot of fun watching Adam Gaudette come in and, land a gut punch that could be the knockout blow for the Vancouver Canucks.
And it was so Canuck. You just knew he was going to score. Hey, Sheldon Dries gets a couple of shifts in overtime. Nick Patan is used in the shootout. Vasily Podkolzin on the bench in both situations. Did you have a problem with Bruce Boudreau's deployment late in that game?
I suppose hindsight, it's fair to question. And in fact, I wish I had questioned the coach. It wasn't anything that I put to him last night. There were other storylines, the goaltending drama. We might get into that one. Just wanted some clarity, and I'm not sure that I got any on that front. But yeah, I mean, sure. Like the way Podkolzin's going, why not throw the guy a bone and give him an overtime shift? The way the Canucks approached overtime, I thought was really interesting last night. We have seen that they've given up early goals far too often. They tried to play the possession game, and they reset and regrouped out in the neutral zone a bunch. But ultimately, they only had 3 shots on goal, and I'm not sure that they really generated a grade A scoring chance. Connor Garland had a decent opportunity, kind of walked in off the right wing. But, instead of trying 80 shot attempts throughout the hockey game, I would like to have seen a few more with all the ice available to them in overtime. The other thing was shootouts, and we're only talking about Nick Patan, because when you get to a shootout, guys, and you have the opportunity to win the hockey game, you have to do it. Yeah. Elias Pettersson had a chance to seal the deal. JT Miller had scored. Elias Pettersson has the game on his stick. He couldn't score. And then Drake Batherson had to score, and Thatcher Demko couldn't make the stop there. Although Batherson, it was kind of like Gaudette. It was a nice shootout snipe. But whatever the case, once you get into 4th and 5th rounds, it really does become a crapshoot. And who would have picked Adam Gaudette to be the hero? Nick Patan. We could have been talking about Nick Patan in that regard. But it is interesting to note that Elias Pettersson has taken part in all 7 Canuck shootouts this year. He's only 2 for 7. And you just think of the way that the skill that oozes out of him and the way that he's been playing, and yet shootouts haven't necessarily been his thing. And I know that he's not alone in that regard. History is littered with guys that, for whatever reason, have been the best players on their team and just haven't been able to get it done in the shootout. And I think of the Sedins. Peter Forsberg never liked to take part in shootouts. There are other guys. So, but it is curious that Elias Pettersson, just the way that he's going right now, only 2 for 7 when it comes to shootouts. And guys, shootouts are a big part of this Canucks storyline this season. Beyond regulation time now, they have just 7 wins in 18 games that have required overtime or a shootout. And you think of the skill level on the Canucks, and certainly compared to the Ottawa Senators, like that shouldn't have been a fair fight. And yet, give Gustafsson credit, give the Senators credit for grinding out the victory. So the only reason the Canucks are even in the playoff picture is because they have those 11 loser points, and yet the reason they're not above the playoff bar is because they've left 11 points on the table, and it just feels to me like there's too much skill that this team can't find a way to grind out a few more victories in either overtime or when it gets to the skills competition.
Jeff, Brock Besser, 22 minutes last night, 1 goal, 1 assist. He's got 5 points last 2 games coming off the injury. Nice screen on the Miller goal, sets up the Dermott goal. He's got a lot to play for down this stretch, too. It's a contract year. They got to qualify him. There's a lot going on. Very impressed with him since coming back from injury last 2 nights.
Yeah, and you think of the goal against Dallas the other night, set up by Pettersson, but with authority. Like, that's Brock Besser using his greatest gift, and that's the shot. There was no chance for the goaltender there. And even last night, set up neatly by Brad Hunt, but still, fires it home, looking like a goal scorer that he is. So he's up to 21 now on the season. And you're right, the setup for Travis Dermott as well. So a good return to the lineup. And look, 2 weeks ago, we were wondering, is he going to play again this season? If not, is that it for him in a Canuck uniform? So I'm just glad that he's healthy, that he got the green light to get back in the lineup. And when other guys are out, somebody's got to step up here. Interesting to note last night, though, guys, that, and this is part of the problem, JT Miller and Brock Besser each had a goal and an assist. The only Canuck forwards to hit the score sheet. Wow. But the only points from forwards last night, Quinn Hughes had a couple of assists. Brad Hunt had a helper. Travis Dermott obviously scored a goal, but crunch time, season on the line, and only 2 of your 12 forwards find the score sheet when you have 80 shot attempts. So a little bit of a disconnect there. But yeah, Rick, I agree with you. And you just hope, even if they don't make the playoffs, you hope there are a few more goals for Brock Besser and that he can finish up strong here and then get to the biggest question of all, and that is his contract and where it goes once the offseason begins.
I know you used to work together, Jeff. How much did you enjoy seeing Tom Larscheid at last night's game?
Yeah, it was great, Donnie. I didn't realize that he was sort of going to be involved in the festivities, but I had a chance to talk to him and his wife, Leslie, having a pregame meal up in the press box. So it's always a joy to visit with Tommy, looking good, sounding good. There were two things I didn't expect to see last night. One was Adam Gaudette winning the game in a shootout. The other was Tom Larscheid in a hydraulic lift being celebrated by the Larscheiders in behind the Canucks net. But Tommy is up. He's always up for some shtick, and so played right into it, was lapping it up. And again, it's always a delight to see him back where he belongs, and that's around the hockey rink.
Yeah, fun night for Vancouver hockey fans, except for the end result. Jeff, thanks so much for this. We'll talk to you next Wednesday.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Jeff Paterson from Sekeres and Price and the Rink-wide podcast.